Hi, my name is Kaniki. I just wanted to bring forth my book, King Kadar's Heir. It's a children's book that I wrote some time ago. And while we are sheltering together alone, you see so many stories of people coming forward and being heroes, just regular everyday people coming forward and being heroes. And it kind of reminded me of some of the themes that are in King Kadar's Heir. And so I just wanted to read it to you guys. And if you are so inclined, you can find King Kadar's Heir on Amazon. It's in paperback and in e-format. So again, this is King Kadar's Heir, and it's illustrated by Vincent Hansard. I'm from Raleigh, and he's a local Raleighite, I guess. So, here we go. Once upon a time, in a far-off land, there ruled a king named Kadar. King Kadar was a great leader who was loved by everyone. But he had a problem. King Kadar did not have an heir who could rule his kingdom when he became too old. This worried the king so much that he called his council of elders together to help him to decide what he should do. His council was a group of wise men that he always talked to when he needed help making a decision. Together, King Kadar and the council all gathered at the round table in the great hall to discuss the king's problem. "My great king," one of the elders began, "the answer is easy. All you have to do is marry a young maiden, and then you shall soon have your heir." The elder delighted in his idea. Everyone nodded in agreement except the king. "Wise Nasham," the king responded, "I am too old and do not have the energy to entertain a young maiden. Besides, an heir from the union would not be old enough to lead my kingdom for many, many years, and I'm afraid time is not on my side." Frustrated, King Kadar sent the council away because he needed to be alone to think. He made his way up the long, winding staircase to the castle's tower, where he slumped into a chair and looked out the window across his kingdom. Peering at the moon, the king hoped an answer would come to him. King Kadar stayed awake all night, wondering what to do. Morning broke, and the first rays of sunlight shone across the king's somber face. Just as the last signs of night slipped away, King Kadar sat straight up in his chair. He finally had an idea for finding his heir. Once again, the king summoned his council of elders. And this is King Kadar thinking at that night. "My noble and wise elders," he began, "after thinking all night about how to find the next leader of our great kingdom, I've come up with an idea. My heir will be appointed, and you, my wise fellows, will help me choose him," the king ordered. He was pleased with his solution. "A chosen heir will be much more valuable to my throne and my legacy, for we will make sure that he possesses all the qualities needed to be a great king. We will find someone who the people will love, someone who has the true characteristics of a leader: courage, compassion, and commitment." He continued to address the elders. "Scour the countryside in search of this person. When you find him, bring him to me, and I will make him the heir to my throne." King Kadar, excited, left the great hall, leaving the elders to decide how they would conduct their search. "How do we search the entire kingdom for the king's heir?" "It's impossible," huffed Esau, one of the king's elders. "It's not impossible," said Elder Elijah, "but it's definitely a challenge." He paced the floor thinking about what to do. "I know. We must set up tests for the heir to pass," Elijah exclaimed. "But we cannot let him know that they are tests for the throne. Instead, we must observe how he naturally acts in different situations in which we place him." The elders talked about how to accomplish the king's plan. Once they were in agreement, they put the scheme in action and started on their journey. Instead of wearing the majestic robes that they normally wore, the elders decided to wear simple clothing and pretended to be nomads wandering through the desert. They traveled day and night, stopping only long enough to have their hopes dashed of ever finding an heir for the king. One day, the elders came across a small watering hole and decided to stop and rest. Just beyond, the elder Elijah noticed a village, and they all agreed that it would be the next stop. "Look over there," shouted a tall, lanky youth as he pointed to the unfamiliar travelers heading his way. "I wonder who they are," he said as his friends began to gather around him. "They are probably coming for you, Koran," one of the boys said. "For what?" Koran questioned, with a hint of concern. "Who knows? You're always doing something," the boy continued while nudging Koran in his side. Koran was quite the adventurer and often found himself in bad situations when he did not heed the wisdom of others. While his intentions were good, he often lacked the wisdom he needed to see things through successfully. Koran remembered a time when he went to his father about building his own hut. He was 14 years old and the eldest son of Benjamin and Rahima. Koran was tired of being treated like a child and wanted to prove to everyone that he was an adult. Against his father's better judgment, Koran set out to build his hut. Day after day, Benjamin watched his son's aimless efforts and finally put an end to it after Koran became the laughing stock of the entire village. "My son," Benjamin began, looking directly into Koran's eyes, "I admire your determination and desire to be a man. But you must not rush it. You must rely on God's wisdom to direct you. When it's time, you will know," Benjamin confronted Koran, hugging him. "You don't know what you're talking about," Koran exclaimed, a bit flustered after remembering that moment with his father. The group began to taunt Koran for his many failed exploits. "Young men, why do you quarrel?" interrupted one of the soldiers as they approached the group of youth. "Who are you and why have you come to our land?" demanded Ephraim as he stepped from among the boys to shield them from any danger. Who's this Ephraim character? Ephraim was also known as the mighty Ephraim because of his fearlessness and strength. Once on a hunt, Ephraim was attacked by a lion. He actually wrestled with the lion, and that night feasted on the meat of his conquest. "Friend, there is no need to be alarmed," said the elder Nashim. "We are peaceful nomads on a journey to Nera. But we were foolish in thinking that we could attempt such a trek without assistance. We need the might of a youth to complete our journey." Nashim was ecstatic, as he and the other elders had seen no other youth so full of valor as the one who stood before them now. He turned to his comrades to see the same excitement dancing in their eyes, for they knew that Ephraim could be the next heir for which they had been searching. "I would be honored to assist you, but how do I know this is not a trick?" Ephraim asked. "We have a contract that each of us will sign," Nashim told him. "We will also give your family 10 gold pieces, 5 of them to have now, and 5 to be given back to us upon your safe return." Ephraim's eyes grew as wide as the gold pieces Nashim showed him. The other young men marveled at the sight of the gold coins as well. The coins were all they could talk about as they escorted the group of elders back to the village. Much ado was made over the elders and their seeming wealth, and the villagers welcomed them with a feast. Together, they celebrated Ephraim's upcoming adventure and with merriment, song, and dance. Feast. After the feast, the elders retired for the evening and encouraged Ephraim to do the same. They wanted an early start for their journey the next day. Family by family, the remaining villagers settled in for the night. Koran was the last person to leave the celebration. As he made his way home and finally into his bed, he thought about the spectacle that had taken place that day and how the elders were so taken with Ephraim's might. Ephraim had boldly stepped forward as if to protect the rest of the group from the elders. Koran wished that he possessed half the courage Ephraim displayed. I will be great, he thought aloud. Everyone will see. Before Koran went to sleep, he whispered his usual prayer. God, give me the wisdom to be great, and I will give you the honor. Amen. You are great, whispered a voice. Suddenly, Koran awoke. He knew he had to go on this journey. He heard the loud shouts of jubilee and realized that the village was stirring to wish Ephraim well. Koran jumped up with no time to waste. He had never been to the capital city before and knew that if he could get there, opportunity awaited. He promised himself that he would complete this expedition no matter what. Besides, with Ephraim as his unsuspecting escort, Koran knew that he would be safe. Koran gathered a few of his belongings, some bread and water, and wrote his family a note stating that he was fine and would be home as soon as he could. He then scurried out of the house. Koran joined the group of well-wishers who had gathered in Ephraim's honor, and as Ephraim guided the elders out of the village, Koran was in close pursuit. Although out of sight, Koran could hear the conversation between the elders and Ephraim. We are quite honored that you have accompanied us, Koran overheard the elder Elijah say. In our aged state, we cannot defend ourselves against enemy forces. It is a great comfort to have you with us. I've been known to take down a foe or two, boasted Ephraim with a hearty laugh. You have nothing to fear. Night began to fall and the elders were growing tired. Ephraim suggested that they stop for the night. The elder Elijah recalled a small thicket nearby and proposed they rest there. He explained that the brush would provide added security while they slept. As Ephraim and the elders set up their camp, Koran decided to go and take a look at a strange covering he had seen earlier in their journey. Although he thought it was nothing, the image would not leave his mind. As he approached the area, he noticed that there were now 3 horses there. He ducked down and crawled to a place where he could see more clearly. From there, Koran saw that there were 3 men dressed as if they were going to battle. They passed some time ago, said the shortest of the 3 men. I'm sure they're weary from their travels and are settling in, another stated. Let's sneak up on them now. Oh my, thought Koran. What can I do? I don't have time to warn Ephraim and the others. Dear God, help. Give me the wisdom and courage I need to help my friend and his companions, he whispered. And like a leaf floating on the wind, his prayer was ushered to God's ear, and in an instant it was answered. An unfamiliar courage came over Koran. He took a deep breath, and under the cover of night, he crept down into the camp. First, Koran loosened the reins of the horses. Then he pulled out a small tin plate and cup and banged them together as loudly as he could. Frightened by the noise, the horses galloped away into the night. That was brave of Koran. Oh my. Hearing the commotion, the 3 men were startled and reached for their weapons. Who's there? They demanded. But as quickly as Koran had slipped into their camp, he had slipped out without being seen. Try as they might, the bandits could not round up their horses, and they were left wandering aimlessly in the dark. Koran, on the other hand, ran with all his might through the darkness, his heart beating quickly in his chest. He could feel the strength of each pulse in his throat. Just when he thought he could not go any further, he came upon one of the horses that he had let loose. After taking a moment to gather his breath, he began calling out to the horse in soft melodic tones. Approaching slowly, he gently stroked the horse to gain its trust. He then mounted the horse and started off in the direction of the elders' camp. In the meantime, Ephraim and the elders were startled by the galloping horses approaching. Gather your things and take cover, Ephraim yelled as he grabbed his weapon and peered into the night. The elders huddled together in awe of Ephraim's courage in the face of danger. The horses drew nearer, and to Ephraim's surprise, there was no one on them. He called out to the horses, stopping their charge and guiding them to him. "These are not wild horses," he informed the elders. "It seems as if they were running from something. We should not tarry any longer." The group quickly gathered their belongings and trekked on. Coran stayed close behind and safely out of sight. As day broke, they decided to find a place to rest, since their sleep had been interrupted during the night. "Let's travel a bit farther," suggested Elijah. "There's a village just beyond the foothill. We visited there before, and they are gracious hosts." Once in the village, they were welcomed by an old acquaintance of Elijah's, who ordered a servant to care for the animals while he ushered Ephraim and the elders into his home to rest. Coran entered the village just behind them. He asked the passerby where he might find food and lodging, and the stranger pointed him in the direction of an inn. As Coran approached the inn, he noticed a frail old man sitting outside. He dismounted his horse and greeted the man as he entered the cottage. Once inside, he asked about the cost of a room and food. "A night's stay and food is a mere piece of silver," stated the innkeeper. Coran emptied his money into his hand. 3 silver pieces rolled out. "Brother, may I ask why the old man sits outside your inn?" Coran questioned. "Oh, never mind him. He's harmless. He's just a beggar," the innkeeper said, laughing. "Has he no home?" Coran inquired. "I don't know. He's been around for the past couple of days now. It's not unusual for nomads to pass through our small village," the innkeeper said. "They live off the kindness and compassion of others. Don't let him bother you, though. Just go about your day's business and leave him be." Coran's heart went out to the beggar. He wondered what events had happened in this man's life to leave him in such a sad point. He asked the innkeeper if there was a stable nearby, paid for a night's stay, and headed out of the inn. At the stable, Coran negotiated a price for the horse he had captured. Selling it for 2 pieces of gold, he then returned to the inn and asked the innkeeper to care for the beggar for as long as the 2 pieces of gold afforded. "You're too generous," said the innkeeper. "It's not generosity to help a brother in need. It's my duty," corrected Coran as he headed to his room. That night, Coran thought about the adventures of the night before, and he was happy that he had come along on this journey. Before drifting off to sleep, he prayed his normal prayer and also asked that God continue to protect him and his friends in their travel. When he woke the next morning and went down for breakfast, he noticed the beggar sitting at the table having a meal as well. Coran smiled to himself and to the man he had helped, ate his food, and left. Coran walked to the home that he had seen Ephraim enter the day before. He waited near the home so that he would be there when Ephraim and the elders departed. A short while later, the group readied themselves to leave. Their hosts blessed their travels, and they were soon on their way back to the city of Heir, which was about a day's journey. "What shall we do upon our return?" whispered Elijah to the other elders. Ephraim couldn't hear him. Valiant he might be, but he has passed no test. "He's the one," Hashem barked lowly. "Our king will have to trust our wisdom." And this is the picture of Coran smiling at the beggar. As night fell upon the group, pushed on to Heir, as it was within a few hours' travel. Upon entering the city, the elders made accommodations for Ephraim, and they made sure that he was well into his sleep before they departed for the castle to speak with the king. Coran had never visited such a lavish city before, and although he was tired, he wanted to see everything there was to see. He ventured from one sight to the next until sleep gripped every morsel of his being. As he could go no farther, he found lodging at the foot of a cypress and nestled in a plush patch of grass. As at the castle, the king was delighted that the elders had returned home. "I am so happy to see you, my loyal friends, and I know you've brought back my heir," he announced. "Your Highness," Hashem began, Our search did not go as planned, but I assure you that your heir has been found. The challenge is, shush, interrupted the king. Save your energy, for tomorrow we will have a great feast to announce him. King Kadar dismissed the elders and retired to his quarters, elated that his heir had been found. The next morning, the elders arose early to prepare to reveal King Kadar's heir. Ephraim was surprised at the display of their regal attire. The king is making an announcement today, Elder Elijah told Ephraim after seeing the puzzled expression on his face. The entire city is abuzz, and we wanted to dress for the occasion. We bought a robe for you too, he said to Ephraim as he offered him the luxurious garment. Here, put it on. You have to look your best when the king makes a speech of this magnitude. Hurry, we mustn't tarry. The elders feverishly helped Ephraim dress and ushered him out the door and through the crowd that had gathered outside the castle. The city was in an uproar and eager to hear the king's announcement. Koran awoke to the hustle and bustle and muscled his way to the front of the crowd, awaiting outside the castle. My fair people, the king began, as a hush fell over everyone. As you know, your king is in the twilight of his time here on earth, and I have no heir to leave you after I'm gone. This has bothered me for some time now, so I devised a plan to find my successor. I am happy to announce that I have found him, and I would like to invite those who discovered my heir to bear witness as to why this person was chosen. 3 knights, as well as 2 other nobly dressed gentlemen, gathered around the king. It is time, stated King Kadar. Please bring me my heir. All 5 men gathered in front of Koran and bowed before him. The elders looked bewildered. Wait a minute, shouted a confused Koran. I'm no heir. I've done nothing. Oh my, this is interesting. You don't recognize us? Questioned one of the knights. Under the cover of night, you single-handedly foiled our plan. Our mission was to test the courage of the king's potential heir by enacting an attack, and you stopped us before we could even put our plan in motion. That took great courage. Koran, bewildered, looked at the men. So you weren't planning a real attack? No, we were sent to that location by the king. And it was me you supplied food and lodging for, chimed in one of the other gentlemen. Yes, the innkeeper spoke. You gave me 2 gold pieces and asked me to care for the stranger. You did not ask for anything in return, but stated that it was your duty to help your brother. Through your actions, you have proven your compassion. King Kadar stepped forward. My son, you have shown your commitment to helping your fellow man, because you could have turned back at any time, yet you chose to see the journey to its end. He then kissed Koran on his forehead and placed a robe made of finest fabric on his shoulders. Countrymen, join me in honoring my son, an heir to my throne. Show him the same love and respect that you show your current king. Come, let's celebrate how God will bless him with a long and joy-filled life. Thank you, great king. It is the grace of God that has put me in this place, and to him I owe all the honor. He will help me be the leader you desire, said Koran. King Kadar escorted Koran through the city, and everyone bowed as they passed. Even Ephraim bowed in awe of his childhood comrade. Years later, after King Kadar had been laid to rest, Koran became the mighty and revered ruler the king had hoped he would be, and the kingdom thrived for many years to come. The end. So that's my book, King Kadar's Heir. Again, you can find it on Amazon.com in ebook format or on paperback. And I just thought that book, I wrote this 6 years ago. Well, I wrote it 10 years ago. It was published 6 years ago. And I thought that the relevancy of this book is very evident today as we battle COVID-19 and have to rely on the support of each other to get through this. And I just thought that, we have to help our brothers, our sisters, reach out to our friends and families in the community and see if they need anything while remaining a safe distance, by donating to charities that are getting meals to people. In this book, Koran saw a hungry person and spent his last to make sure that person was fed. And you see so many examples of that right now, Americans and people across the world banding together to help out our fellow brothers and sisters. And so I just wanted to read it. I thought it was good. You can read it to your kids and show how even the smallest of things that they might do is an effort in battling COVID-19. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you all have a good day. Be blessed and be safe.